Hi there, when I machined the cylinder liner for the Farm Boy hit and miss engine in video MT35 part 4, I measured the internal diameter of each end and it was out by about 2 thou over a distance of 3 inches, and I thought that would be okay, but I received some feedback suggesting that that probably isn't going to be good enough. So in this video I'm going to use my new Hemingway between centres boring bar to see if I can machine it more accurately. Now, as I understand it, to do between centres boring in the lathe, what you need to do is to mount the piece you're going to bore onto the cross slide, and that can be quite sort of difficult to do, I guess. And Dave Ticehurst came up with a fantastic suggestion that one way to do it would be to get a piece of hardwood, pretend this is a piece of hardwood, and what you do is, using the boring bar, so you clamp this to the cross slide, and using the boring bar you bore the hole to the outside diameter of the sleeve, and then the idea is you put that inside this piece of hardwood, and then you use the boring bar again to machine the inside. Fantastic idea, because you don't have all the complications of working out sort of centre heights and stuff like that. However, I think at some stage I'm going to have to address working out centre heights and working out how to hold this properly on the cross slide, or items like this properly on the cross slide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and do it the hard way, and I've watched a video of Mr Crispin. He machined some cylinders for his engine that he's making, and it's a fantastically informative video. So what I'm going to be doing is taking a lot of the advice that he's provided, and I'm going to try and follow it in my video. Now, the first thing to do, if you haven't already done it, is to find out the distance between the surface of the top slide and the centre of the lathe. Now, Mr Crispin comes up with a great idea, and he basically puts a piece of bar stock in here and turns the outside diameter to whatever diameter, which is what I've done. That's about 1.5 something or other of an inch. And what he then does is he uses block gauges or slip gauges to measure the height between this surface and the bottom there. Now, fortunately, a couple of days ago I bought this second-hand set of slip gauges on eBay, and I took a bit of a gamble on it, but I'm ever so happy with the quality. I've checked each item and they're all spot on, so it must have been very well looked after. I've put these numbers on because it was a bit tatty before. So anyway, I'm going to use this set of slip gauges to work out the centre height of my lathe. Well, that's the stack of slip gauges, and that comes in at 1.597 of an inch. So now for some maths. Now, the diameter of the piece that I turned is 1.5375 of an inch. So the radius is equal to half of that, 0.076875. Now my stack is 1.597. So if I add those two together, I get to 2.36575 of an inch. So rounded, 2.366 of an inch, or alternatively 60.09 millimeters. So I need to make a note of that for future reference, because that will never change. So I've decided to use some V-blocks on the cross slide, and the sleeve will sit on top of those blocks. So what I need to do is to measure the distance between the bottom of the V-block to the top of the cylinder, and that measures 2.3485. So now for some more maths. So we know that the distance between the bottom of the V-block and the top of the sleeve is 2.3485 of an inch. Now I know that the outside diameter of the sleeve is 1.202 of an inch. So the distance from the base to the centre is equal to 2.3485 minus the outside radius, which is 0.601. So if I do the maths, I come up with 1.7475 of an inch between the base and the centre. Now I know that the distance from the cross slide to the centre is 2.366 of an inch. So I need to put some packing under here to bring that centre in line with the centre of the lathe. So I know that this distance is 2.3660, and I know that this distance is 1.7475. So take that off that, I get to 0.6185 of an inch. So that's the thickness of the packing that I need to put under here to make sure that the centres line up. Now these are some sort of clamping things I made a while ago that fit on the cross slide, and I've just turned down this end here to a point, and I've marked it in the 3-jaw chuck, marked the exact position because I need to take it out temporarily just to put a gauge in here so I can actually make sure that the face of this bar here is parallel with the bed. That looks good. Well, this is interesting. I've clamped it down, and I've just put this coaxial indicator on just so I can get the cross slide in the correct position. So if I've got the tip on this edge here, we're reading 0, and the tip on the far side, I'm reading 0. But I notice at the top I'm a thou out, and at the bottom I'm a thou the other way. So that actually means that ideally I could do with another thou of packing at the bottom, but I'm not sure that that's going to be that important at this stage. Another interesting thing is, if I position it at the back edge here, let's go around again. So we're on 0, and I move the cylinder along its length. I'm still on 0, so that means it's spot on parallel with the bed. If I do the same thing the other way, get the gauge to sit right. Exactly the same, no movement whatsoever. And likewise, if I position it at the bottom or the top, so I'm a thou out, no difference. So I think I'm pretty good to go with this. Okay, so having slept on it, I decided that I'd try and get rid of that thou difference between the top and the bottom. And now that's at the top. and that's at the bottom. That's pretty much spot on. So if I start the lathe up, there's very little fluctuation now. It gets slightly worse towards the other end, but nothing major. So the fluctuation there is just less than a thou, so I think I'm good to go. Well, it's time for some more maths now. When I originally machined the cylinder liner, I was aiming for around about a diameter of 1.018 or 19, because I was hoping to get an O-ring that size. So it's pretty much at that size at the moment. Now, I've just measured the boring bar, and it's got a diameter of 0.749, and I put a feeler gauge down here, a 6 thou feeler gauge, because there's an indent there where the tool goes in, or rather in there, and having put a 6 thou feeler gauge on there and then measured it with the micrometer, I got to let me see, 0.875. Obviously if I take 6 thou off that, I get to 0.869. If I then take the diameter off it, I get 0.120, which is the amount that this tool is sticking out, I reckon. So if I take the diameter again and double up the 120 to be 240, that gives me, I reckon, the current cutting diameter to be 0.989. Now my target, if I can do it, would ideally be 1.023, because that's I can get a nitrile O-ring 26mm outside diameter. If I can't achieve that, then I'll go the next one up, 26.3mm, which is 1.035. But anyway, for now, I'll try and hit that. Obviously the diameter at the moment is, I reckon, 0.989, so the difference being 34 thou. So I reckon that this tool needs to be advanced by 17 thou to be able to hit that target of 1.023. So the way to do this is, the tool is currently locked. The screw is positioned at the top of the tool. It's a matter of loosening that and then moving this so many graduations. Obviously these are thousandths of an inch. So I think first of all, to take things easy, I think I'll advance it 10 thou and see where that puts us. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll take that off, put it back on the lathe, and then make a first cut. It might not achieve the first cut because obviously it's 1.018 in diameter at the moment. Well, my calculations are that the tool is now at a diameter of 1.009, and as I sort of assumed, it's not touching any of the inside of the bore. So I'll take it off again and I'll adjust it by another 5 thou. So that should be about a thou over the current sort of diameter. Okay, so this is just catching on the inside all round, which is encouraging. So what I'll do, I'll make an initial cut. It will take only about a thou off, I think, but I'll go about 300 RPM, and I'll use the fine feed on the carriage. Well, I must say I'm not happy with the finish there, and there was quite a bit of chatter or vibration going on. I mean, everything seems rock solid, and the cross slide's locked as well, so I'm not too sure. I think I need to revisit the profile of the cutting tool. Well, I've changed the profile of the cutting tool slightly, but I'm still getting chatter, so I'm going to take a few thou off, but it's turning out to be a bit of a disaster, to be honest. I'll turn a bit of slower speed, 200, and I've put some WD-40 on, fine feed. That to me is chatter. Let's speed it up a bit. Well, I've tried honing the tool, and there's still some vibration there, and I'm only taking a fine cut, so I'm not too sure what's going on here. Well, I must say I'm very unhappy with the overall finish of that. It's now 1.057 of an inch, so it's 57 thou over size, and I'm now going to have to do what I didn't want to do in the first place, and that is hone it. But hey ho. Well, the honing didn't work out either, so all in all a total disaster, and that is now ready for the scrap bin. But yeah, it was really enjoyable messing around with the slip gauges, and my slip gauges are fantastic, and getting it all centered on the lathe, that was really enjoyable. But it's when it came down to the machining, using the between centres boring bar, the bar was vibrating so much, and I can only think it's something to do with the tool. But I ground the tool as it suggested in the instructions, and then I sought some advice on the internet and found a diagram which was slightly different to the way I'd ground it before, so I reground it. Tried that again and got the same result. so I don't know what's going on. But if anybody's any suggestions in terms of how to do it properly, I would welcome any feedback and comments, and it might help others. I suppose I can keep that for if I do try it again. But what I'm going to have to do is to order some more cast iron and make it again using exactly the same method that I used last time. And to be honest, if it's out by tooth out one end, I'll probably try honing that out. But anyway, my first disaster, so I hope you found it useful, and I hope to see you later.